probably the biggest surprise in the 2020 bubble was the Miami Heat and the playoff run they had. As a fifth seed that had just recently missed the playoffs to beating the Pacers in 4, beating the favored Bucks in 5 games, and beating the Celtics in 6 games, but eventually losing to the eventual champions, Los Angeles Lakers in 6 games, where they were heavily doubted in 2 of those playoff series against the Bucks and the Lakers. And I'm going to be talking about my opinion if the Heat will have in the 2020-2021 season, like a very similar season and perform very well. But this is going to be an unscripted video, so I'm just going to be talking. And remember to subscribe to the channel, as I'm a very small channel, so every subscription counts. If you want a shout out in the next video, then subscribe to the channel and comment down below that you want a shout out, and I'll catch you on the next video. Now let's begin. Well, the first thing is that they have a great culture, and every person on the team has been doubted out. Oh, most of them. Jimmy Butler, their star player, was of course the 30th pick. Bam Adebayo was the 13th pick and fell under the radar in the 2017 NBA draft. Some people thought Tyler Hero would be a bust, and Goran Dragic had just had a very underwhelming season. They also had many other assets, and we'll talk about those people later. So, of course, the Heat, going back to last year, they were in the mediocrity place. They had an old Dwayne Wade, who was in his last season. They had Josh Richardson and Justice Winslow. And Justice Winslow looked pretty promising, but he had injury issues. There, they made, I think, the 9th seed, and of course missed the playoffs. And they had the 13th pick to select Tyler Hero. Now, Tyler Hero is, of course, a very good shooter. He's a fan favorite now, but he was very under the radar. And as we all know, he turned out to be an absolute stud. There, the Miami Heat's development has been pretty well, as they also had 2 undrafted players in Kendrick Nunn and Goran Dragic, and turned them into very key role players. Duncan Robinson is a top 5 shooter in the league right now, and Kendrick Nunn just was the runner-up in the Rookie of the Year. So they had a very good development, and they're still Miami, a very big market. They're in the offseason, when many people thought they were in a very good, enticing place. They traded first Hassan Whiteside for Myers Leonard, just to dump off the salary to the Portland Trailblazers, who wanted a big, because Yusuf Nurkic was out for the whole season. Besides the bubble. There, they dumped off $27 million in salary and traded Josh Richardson, a second round pick in the 2016 NBA draft, to the Philadelphia Sixers for a sign-and trade for Jimmy Butler. Jimmy had just come off from a very bad stint in the Timberwolves, where he had a lot of chemistry issues and had pushed the eventual champions Toronto Raptors to 7 games. Jimmy was under the radar, and many people thought he wasn't a winner. So he promised Miami a championship, and he knew that Miami was the place, while everyone else didn't know that. Jimmy Butler became the leader that every team wants, and he just was the cornerstone and the main reason for why they made the NBA Finals. Then there's talking about the runner-up most improved player, Bam Adebayo. Bam Adebayo had a very interesting start of his career. In his first 2 years, he had a lot of potential, but Hassan Whiteside was taking all of his minutes. However, in the 2018-2019 season, Hassan Whiteside got injured, and that allowed Bam Adebayo to become a starter, and he excelled, putting up 16 points a game, 8 rebounds. I'm not exactly sure if that's his stats. So then they knew, Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra knew that Bam Adebayo would be their starting center, and that's why they were flipping Hassan Whiteside. Then you have Goran Dragic, who had some bad injury issues in the 2018-2019 season, and he was definitely under the radar. There in the season, he was a 6th man behind Kendrick Nunn. However, in the playoffs, with his veteran leadership, and in the playoffs, he became a key starter and the 3rd best player. He actually, in the playoffs before the finals, he led the Heat in points, 21 points over Jimmy and Bam, and he stepped up tremendously, especially in the series against the Celtics and the Bucks. There, you also have role players like Duncan Robinson, like I talked about him. You have Myers Leonard, a good energy guy. You have Kelly Olynyk, a good stretch four. Derrick Jones Jr. And two people they acquired at the trade deadline, Andre Iguodala and Jay Crowder. Now, Iguodala was actually the main piece, but Jay Crowder proved to be a key starter who was the most efficient player in the bubble from the corner shot. He wasn't the most efficient, he turned out to be, took some bad shots, he tried to be a my career player, but he was still a really good player. He provided energy on the defensive line too, defensive end, which every team would want. And he was just a good player. And Andre Iguodala is, of course, a good defender. He can knock down the three-point shot. And he's just, every team wants an Andre Iguodala. He proved so beneficial to the Warriors. And so this team was a team of underdogs. And they ended up as the 5th seed. There, they, of course, made the historic run. So now, as we all know, let's see what I really expect from the Heat. Well, I think that being in the bubble definitely helped Miami a lot because there were a couple of teams that had a bunch of less players who didn't want to join, and then they also the the neutral sites was pretty beneficial to them, like the Denver Nuggets in the Western Conference, but Jimmy Butler emerged as a star. Bam was still consistent, and Tyler Hero became the youngest rookie to ever start in a finals game and put up, I think, every game in the playoffs put up over double digits as a rookie. So they look very promising. But next year the Bucks will be back better than ever. Field to have a good player from to bring back Giannis. The Nets are gonna be back with KD and Kyrie. The Celtics are gonna be even better than ever. I made a video about that. And then you of course have the Raptors, the Sixers might be back, and there's just so many teams you never even know. The Hawks might have a really good season. The Bulls without Jim Boylan. But I think that Miami still is a contender. In the power rankings, which I might make a video about soon, I think they are about the 8th to 4th best team in the league. I think the Bucks are still a better contender than them, but you never know. The Heat are always counted out, so I wouldn't be surprised if they had a very historic playoff run. You have Jimmy, but I'm not exactly sure if they can sustain this type of level like they did in the playoffs there. I think they won't. It's just that they destroyed the Bucks. And sure, Eric Bledsoe, the Bucks are going to make more moves. They might trade for a Chris Paul. But I think that, you first have to, of course, re-sign Goran Dragic, Kelly Olynyk, and Jay Crowder. Some pretty big players, especially Goran Dragic and Jay Crowder. Sure, they don't want to give Goran Dragic a long-term deal, as they want to go for Giannis in 2021, and they look very enticing for that. And so I just think that this offseason is going to be pretty big, and this is going to determine their future for the 2021 free agency class with Giannis, Kawhi, Paul George. And this is also going to determine, will they give Bam a Supermax extension, which is always that if they don't give it to him, then they might think that they're not valuing him enough. I think he definitely deserves it. And then bringing back Jay Crowder, Kelly Olynyk, maybe to a couple one-year deals, $5 million deals. But Goran Dragic might, if he might go to the Hawks for a 2-year deal to just get a veteran. But I think he wants to stay in Miami. But I personally think that with this next season, Pat Riley said he wants to run it back. And sure, they might be able to do it, but I don't think they're going to be able to beat the Bucks, Celtics, and potentially Nets. I'm not exactly sure. You never know in the NBA. It's the NBA. You never know. And so I think that they're rather going to be just what we expect them to be, or we're going to expect them, or they're going to just break out, exceed all expectations, and make it potentially to the NBA Finals again, and potentially even winning it and showing an even more enticing place for Giannis and competing for the next future. They have probably a top 4 front offices, with Pat Riley being such a good general manager, and Eric Spoelstra being a really good head coach. But I think that they're going to surprise everyone, but I won't be surprised if they just set their expectations. So yeah, that's going to be the video. This was an unscripted video, and I thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.